So I'd like to welcome Paul Hines at this stage. Paul's been a long-standing client of mine, and he did a presentation at our Growth Club recently, and it went down really well. So I thought I'd just follow that up by having a chat with Paul, so he could share his experiences a bit wider afield through the webinar. So welcome, Paul. Paul owns and runs Progress Windows based in Hinckley. And I've known Paul over 10 years now, either through the coaching or just through personal family and friends. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So perhaps we could kick off, Paul, just out of interest, what position was your business in, a little bit of background, and kind of what prompted you to want to contact a coach that would potentially be helping you out with things?
Yeah, so I can remember it well, really. There's a lot of history behind that question, really. So it wasn't perhaps a finite moment in time. It wasn't a single moment in time that led me to where I am. It was a combination of lots of things over a long period of time that made me realise that business coaching was something that I wanted to look into. A long story, a little bit shorter, is that I set up a business in 2008. I set up Progress Windows in 2008, home improvements based in Hinckley. And there was a lot of determination behind that startup. There was a lot of willingness and a lot of hard work and a lot of endeavour behind that startup, because that's how I saw that running a business should be. It should be me at 6:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night and doing almost everything in the business. And that's sort of how it started. This is based on working in a previous business which hadn't quite made it, so I was quite keen not to repeat those mistakes again. So for the first few years of running Progress, it was okay. It wasn't a bad little business. It wasn't failing. It was okay. It was making a bit of money. It was all right. But I was working for every single pound that I earned, and I was working doubly hard for it, because that's how it was. That's the nature of myself, and that's the nature of the business I was at the time. Obviously, just starting up, you just don't, not so much can't afford, but you just don't see the bigger picture. You just see the day to day. You just see, right, Monday morning, what's my problems? How am I going to fix it? And work it like that. And then Tuesday morning, then Wednesday morning, Thursday morning. There's no plan. There's no next Monday or the Monday after that. It was just, right, today. What have I got to do today? And that's how I was working. And I was working for a good couple of years like that. And at first, it's okay. That's how business is. That's how being an owner of business is. But in the end, I just felt that I was working so hard, and I wasn't really getting much of a return. Not, the business was okay. It was making money, but not, it wasn't. There'd be some weeks I wouldn't.
Not what I thought was due, kind of thing. Yeah.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Definitely not. And there'd be some weeks I didn't pay myself because there just wasn't enough money in the pot for me to take a wage. So, that's not really ideal. That's not how things should be, I didn't think. So I remember meeting you at a business networking morning, and I'll never forget it. I don't believe in love at first sight, but I must admit, Mark, when I first saw you, I thought this is a man I want to try and get involved with. In terms of the language you spoke, really resonated with me. The things you talked about in your brief presentations at networking resonated with me. And it was just a language I understood. And I've never really spoken to anybody like that. My dad is a fantastic business person, but like that, he's a hard-working business person. He's not the sort of man to talk about business planning, things like that. So yeah, we got together, didn't we? We spoke a little bit, and again, the language you mentioned, you talked about the things you went through. I just thought, you know what, this is what I need. I remember you saying it, and I still remember it now. You can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. I'd been doing the same things for 2 years, and the results were okay. But I now knew, from a combination of these years, a combination of my experiences, a combination of what I'd gone through, that I had to change it. And meeting you was the change. That I wanted as much as needed. I really did want that, and it went from there.
Cool. Yeah, no, I remember that day well. I can also remember one of our first sessions together, because one of the things I tend to do when I first start working with clients is just ask them to bring in whatever information they use typically to make the decision making, through their business day to day. And that gives me a sense of where they're at, how they understand what they've got, what is it they use, if anything. And I think we both concluded after not a particularly long time that you were probably the hardest working and lowest paid member of the team at Progress. And I think that really set the stall out for this can't continue. We need to look at putting some kind of plan in place. So once we'd started that conversation, remind me what were the things we started to work on first that had the biggest impact in the business? Paul?
Yeah, the first thing was planning. Was I didn't have a plan as such. Certainly didn't have anything written down. I had an idea in my head where I wanted things to go, but there was no plan. And I'll never forget. I remember you saying, if you're in a car and you've got to get to point A from where you are now, you're going to plan that route. You're not just going to get on the road and see where it takes you. You're going to go, right, I need to go down this road, then that road, and then that road. And if that road's closed, I've got that road there. And it was these analogies that really sat well with me. So that planning side of things was just invaluable, really. And it was the different, how do I say it? The different times of planning. So I quite like the 30-day plans that we did initially. That was brilliant for me because I was very short-termism the way I was working at the time. There wasn't a great deal at the time, just thinking about sort of 5 years down the line. It was just, okay, in the short term, where do you want to be? What do you want to do in the short term? And then think about some long-term things. So the planning side of things, I really enjoyed that. I am a planner. I haven't really done it in my business, but I am a planner. I'm a fairly organised fellow. So again, it was things like that just really stuck with me, really intrigued me. And I wanted to learn it. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to be that part of my business process. And I still plan now. It's part of my day. It's part of my week. It's part of my month, part of my year. So that was one of the very first things I learned that I really, really got into.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think I remember that. I mean, you were very good at attending the 90-day planning events, and then I can remember we used to take the work that you'd put together during that, and then break that down into monthly and then weekly. And then I think importantly for you, if I remember right, you were pretty good at managing your diary, but maybe personally, but didn't really connect the work plan into what your daily diary should look like. So just talk me through that, how perhaps your diary management changed with regards to that planning focus that you then started to pick up on.
Yeah, again, because you've got an overall plan, your diary could be a lot more strategic in the way it worked. So I started to make sure that I was putting time aside to work on the business. That is a phrase that we hear quite a bit, and I was doing that. So and it meshes quite a bit. We'll come on to test and measure soon. So I was putting time in place just to work on my numbers of the business, to understand what my numbers were doing. But then I had to put a plan in place to set that up, set that system up so I can do that. So there were so many things that came in, and the only way you can do these things is strange because there's so much came in such a short space of time, and I really loved every minute of it. But the default diary, as we call it, and I call it, that was how I needed to work to put the things in place we were talking about. I knew I had to understand my numbers a lot more, but how can you understand the numbers if you haven't got any time to do that? How can you even set a system up to understand the numbers if you haven't got any time to do that? So the diary I remember saying to myself, and I remember saying to the team as well, this is our goal. This is what we're trying to achieve, whether it be long-term, short-term, or whatever. Is what you're doing now contributing to that? If the answer is no, why are we doing it? And let's not do it. And your diary then can start matching your goals. It starts mirroring your goals. So I would have, if it was always Monday mornings, 11 o'clock-ish, something like that. The rush would go, and 11 o'clock, it was a good time, fresh in the week, 11 till 1, right. Where's my numbers? How's my system for my numbers? And I developed my own little test and measure spreadsheets and things, which were still with me now. They were invaluable, and they really, really made a difference. And I was able to do that because of the diary, because of setting time aside, because I had a plan.
Yeah, cool. So I always remember when I visited the office after we've been working together some time, you'd put quite a simple but quite effective whiteboard up in the office that you used to focus on. Just talk to me about how what prompted you to put that up there, and how did it help drive the business?
Yeah. So these are all things that I wanted to do, and so going back again a little bit to what the difference that you personally made. So being the owner of the business is quite a lonely place. You are, unless you've got a partner. I didn't. It was just me on my own. It was hard to sort of bounce ideas off people, and as much as anything else, it was no one was keeping you accountable. So if you didn't do something, didn't matter. No one could tell you off. No one could not tell you off, but no one could hold you accountable for that. Mm-hmm. So meeting you every couple of weeks we'd put things in place, and I didn't want to go back 2 weeks ago and say, you know what, Mark, I've not done it. It's not something I've done. And I remember one of the biggest things I wanted to do, that I found in business, is that all the problems were mine. All the problems in the business were mine. So if we'd not had a good week in terms of sales or leads, or if something had gone wrong, I was the only person that really knew about it, and probably the only person that really cared about it. And that's no fault of anybody else. If they don't know, they can't care. So I remember talking about it and said, I've got to share this load. I can't just deal with all this on my own all the time. It's not on. So we did KPIs. We spoke about it, and we had a simple but effective whiteboard in my office where everybody goes. This is an open door policy. I don't like that, but it is what it is. In my office where everybody is, and it was there. It was tracking the numbers. It was tracking the numbers of the business. So if we had a good week, it'd be there. If we had a bad week, it would be that, lower down. And people would come in and go, oh, not sold a lot, have we, last couple of weeks? No, we haven't, have we? We haven't sold lots, have we, as a business? What are we going to do to sort that out? Oh, and I know they'll be thinking, that's what you do, isn't it? Yes, it is. But as a business, as a whole, if it doesn't work, where's the problem going to be? And then the whole business then would be getting around solving the problem. And a simple thing, we obviously, leads are our bread and butter. We need as many inquiries as possible. So now the surveyors were going out there and they were saying about recommendations. They were actively asking for recommendations for people. Do you know anyone else looking for quotes?
Oh, and this is because you'd raised the profile, the awareness was greater with the sales team. So they got something to discuss more with you, and then it was probably front of mind when they were out actually selling.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
exactly that. And not just the salespeople, the surveyors in the business, the fitters in the business, everyone in the business would recognise that we'd not had a great month, week, day, whatever it might be, and then they contribute to helping the business improve. I know my numbers ever so well, and we'll get into that surely in a bit, but that had a massive impact on my business. That now there wasn't just one person dealing with that issue; everybody was. But again, because I'd made it known to the staff, based on the work that we'd done, made it known to the staff that these were some of the business issues that we faced, or success as well. Again, on the other way, I'd have a great week and they'd only me know about it. So now, hey, guys, look at that. Look how much we've done this week. We've had a really great week. Well done, everybody. That increases morale. It just makes the whole atmosphere better. So that was key. Really massive.
Did it have it's all very well putting numbers on a board and talking about it, but how much do you believe that just that simple act had an impact on the actual performance of the business one way or the other?
I can tell you exactly in a snapshot in time. So in the first, I'll go through this. So in the first couple of years, we got a few recommendations. We did, word of mouth. When we started doing that, when we started actively asking for recommendations from people, our recommends quadrupled. So as a percentage, don't get me wrong, we were a couple of years older, so the snowball effect is there. But if you look at the line, it sort of did a nice gradual increase. When we started this, which was probably 3 years down the line, we got a huge spike, a huge increase in it. That's not a snowball effect. A snowball effect is a fairly nice gradual curve. Literally, you can see it. And recommendations even now is our third or fourth, depending on the month, our third and fourth best way of getting business. So, and that's all born about from those initial early days. And now it's ingrained in the business that, make sure, guys, we ask for recommendations. We even have we've developed a CRM system now that at the end of it, we can click a button and it sends an email out asking for recommendations. So, it's all ingrained now in the business.
Yeah. So as the business, if you were already, in the business a lot, more hours than you really felt you should be, business is starting to get busier. How did you ensure that you didn't just end up working more hours?
Yeah, very good. And interestingly, the more busier I've become, the less hours I've worked. So today will be
More
this
busy
year.
the business has become, or
yeah, the more busier the business has become,
yeah,
the less busy I've become. So I do less hours now at work.
Because that sounds like a contradiction of terms, doesn't it?
It does. So in the first year, I'm not going to go into turnover too much, but we turned over a certain amount of money, and my hours I worked then was incredible. I didn't have holidays and stuff like that. If you took my hours over a year and divided it by how much money we made, it would be a certain figure. But as time's gone on, I've learned to manage my time, to be more systemized, to make people responsible for the work they've got to do, rather than me coming in and doing it all the time. We've put technology in place. We've got a CRM system. So now my turnover this year will be the most it's ever been, and yet my hours within the business will be the least it's ever been.
Can you just scale that compared to where you were at the start? Is it double it, or is it a third more, or turnover?
In terms of turnover, it was. Oh my goodness me! I'm trying to think of percentages. I don't know how to explain. Can we just? We'll edit this. We'll edit this, won't we? I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Is it doubled or the turnover?
No, it's more than double. It's well more than doubled.
Okay, that's fine.
My turnover in the last however many years we've been working, we'll have increase fivefold.
Wow. Okay, as much as that, I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
So fivefold in turnover. So aside of price increases or whatever else, volume wise, your business is busy. So I'm assuming you've got more team, more staff, more people around.
Yes.
So just talk us through that, because that's very often it's growing the team is very often, in my experience, an area that people tend to shy away from, mainly because they probably had a bad experience in recruitment, or they've had a bad experience with the way the team are performing. They get frustrated that the team aren't delivering it the way they want. So if you start to talk to them about doubling the size of that, they tend to see it as a doubling the size of the problem, doubling the headache. Yeah. Whereas you've obviously, quadrupled the size of the business more than, and at the same time taking more time out. So just talk about how you've gone about that process and growing the team to support the business.
Always keen on responsibility, and that's massive. So in my team, I'd like to think everyone knows what they're responsible for. So in the first 2 years, I was Superman. If there was a problem, I'd solve it. It didn't matter what it was. I would solve it. That's how it was. And people would just go, you know what, if there's a problem, we'll just stand back and Paul will swoop in and solve the problem. And that changed overnight quite rapidly, in the fact that, right, okay, this is your responsibility. I'm employing you to sort that out. Don't come to me with any problems in that instance, because I'm just not going to deal with it, because that's what you're here for. That's what you're paid to do. Interestingly, I run a home improvements business. So we fit windows, doors, conservatories, fascia soffits, any home improvements, what we do to a property. In truth, I've never fitted a window in my life. I've never fitted a window in my life. I've never done it. And yet I was the one solving fitting problems. Wow, so I'm probably the least qualified person in this business to do that, but I was the man doing it for a number of years. So it starts with your existing people. There's no point. You're exactly right. There's no point bringing people in if you've got problems with existing people. So we sat all the teams down and said, right, this is what you're here for. You're here to solve those problems, and not just with the products themselves, but with the clients. What there'd be a problem, and they go, "Oh, I'm not talking to the clients about it. I'll let Paul do it." and I'd have to go in and talk to them about it. Well, hold on, you're the fitters. That's what you're being paid to do. If there's a problem, talk to the client. Talk to them. Tell them how you're going to solve it. Ask them what the options are. You know, there's a bit of brickwork come down. We can't do anything about that. It is what it is. How do you want to deal with it? Do you want us to put it back up for you, or do you want to get someone in? You know, you've got to deal with these problems. With the surveying, similar sort of thing. There'd be, well, what do I do here? Well, what do you think you should do? And sadly, if the people then can't work in the way we are now, then we have to move things around, and that's okay. But then once you've got your existing members of staff working to a way that you want them to be, the roles are measured as best they possibly can be. As long as you understand, you know, what they should be doing, there's a bit for them. You know, we're still a family business. We're not corporate, but we have a bit of an idea of what the fitters should be doing. And when they start, we'll say, look, this is what we expect of you. This is what we want to achieve. Can you do that? If the answer is yes, off we go. And if they don't keep to that, then sadly, they're no longer with us, which happens. So that was huge for me, that I can set people on knowing their parameters, knowing what they're responsible for, knowing what they've got to do, knowing that anything within that parameter, don't come to me with it, because I'm not going to help you. And it always happens, every team, always. They start for a few weeks and they're great. And then they'll have this one, I've got this, Mrs. Smith's not in. She's not in. It's booked in and she's not in. You ring Mrs. Smith then. What are you ringing me for? You know what I mean? Don't ring me again. You've got the number, you've got the contact details. She might just walk in the dog, give the client a call, and she'll talk to you about it, not me. And
so what got you, Paul, to the? I understand the difference in style, but what was the trigger for you to move from this Superman pants to making them more accountable? Because I think it's relatively easy understood, but it's not necessarily easily done, is it?
No, it's not. But then again, so I can take that to one snapshot of time with yourself and with Action Coach, above the line, below the line. There's one slide that you've got, and I still have it in my mind now. I'll never forget that slide, that you've got to be above the line or below the line. And that's how I was with the people I've got. This is where you need to be. These are your responsibilities. Are you above the line or below the line? And it was quite interesting that I would sit with you on a session, and you'd talk to me about different things, and then I'd go back and almost say exactly the same thing to my team. You know, there's probably, I think, a couple of times I did bring my team into you, but I probably should have done that a lot more. You know, I mean, bring my managers in with you and with Action Coach to sort of go through with them as well. But I can articulate. I was okay getting it across, so it worked for me. So yeah, again,
is that framing the culture of, we're not going to accept blame, excuses, denial. You're going to take ownership of it yourself. You do it yourself. Take responsibility, and just get on with it. So once you kind of got that, you took it away and went about implementing it, by the sounds of things, which is cool.
Exactly that. Yeah, it worked for me, and it's interesting. I've been to some 90-day planning events since, and I see similar people to a similar sort of situation to me, and they're trying to implement it, but they're perhaps not as definite as they should be with it. I just knew, for me, that's what I wanted to do. It's a mindset thing. You know, you can lead a horse to water and all that sort of stuff. I wanted it. I was desperate for that. I knew how. It all goes back to how I wanted the business to be. I remember sitting there thinking about, our dream board and things like that. How did you want this business to be? I did not want to. I want to be a hardworking business owner. I do. I'll never shy away from that. But I didn't want to be, 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. every single day without holidays. I didn't want that. That can't be how it should be. It can't be. So I knew that had to change, and everything developed from there.
So once you'd formed an idea of, because there's an important sequence to this, isn't it? It's, if you've got clarity over where you wanted to take the business, that then is an enabler, isn't it? When you're getting people to rally behind you and give them line of sight to where the business is going to go to. So what was your aim or vision for the business that you downlined to the team to get behind?
Yeah, so I'm a numbers person, very much a numbers person. So my targets and aims are based on numbers. That's how I work. So we looked at turnover, and profitability as our two main KPIs. How are we going to improve those? What are we going to do to do that? So every year we'd sit there and as a team we'd make a plan and a forecast of what we wanted to do, and then therefore everything draws back from that. And we said we want to be in a certain position in however many years' time, and that was really good to go through the team. They got on board with it. They're part of the project. They're part of the process, and people like that. I can't speak for everybody, and perhaps it's just because the people I work with, but the people I work with are very driven by the fact that they're included in the project. Touch wood, my main three guys, Mark, Martin and Phil, they've been with me Martin and Phil since we started. Mark's been with me now for, 7 or 8 years, and they're good guys. If they wanted to, there's plenty of people that snap them up tomorrow, but they've not left. I'll try to look after them and try to make them feel included. And then the other thing for myself, so that was the business goals were very numbers driven. For me, it was more of a lifestyle change. How do I want to be in a certain period of time? And we've spoke about it that by a certain time, I want to be able to not retire. That's not the right word, but I want to be able to have the choice to do what I want. My little boy, who's Carson, who's 7 years old now, in 10 years' time, he'll be 16, 17, and it'll be that age where he'll want to do stuff. And I want a couple of years to do whatever he wants to do, whatever it may be, whether it's racing cars or playing football or dancing or whatever it is he wants to do. It doesn't matter. I want to be able to have that time to do that. So again, there's a personal plan as well as a business plan. There's a personal goal where, I need a certain amount of income or a certain position in my life to be able to do that. So again, every day and every month and every week, I try and work towards making that happen.
So you've got your personal sort of not exit plan necessarily, but kind of a how much by when. What's Paul going to be doing? Days at work in the week. How much income do you want from the business, etc. Yeah. So that helped drive you, and then that filters down into the business. You just touched on the fact you got some really good key people. Do you do anything specifically in order to help retain them? Because obviously these days it's recruitment is probably one of the toughest things that people are dealing with right now. Not enough good people out there. Everyone hunting for a bigger wage. It's relatively easy to jump from one job to another. So what are you doing that's allowed you to keep these three guys for so long?
You'd have to ask them a little bit because they've stuck with me. One of the things is, and it sounds simple, but I've paid them. So I've paid them. I've never had any issues with money. Everyone that works for me, if they've earned it, they get paid it. In this industry, not everyone can say that. There's quite often times
you mean paid well, paid commensurate, maybe a bit more than would be the market norm.
Yeah, possibly so, but just been honest and upfront with the money side of things, because there's plenty of companies in this industry that aren't like that. Yeah. They aren't like that. And I just think as a person, I think I've been quite fair with everybody. I try to be. I try to look after good people. Touch wood, I've not lost really any really good people. The people that are with me now are the people that I value and I work hard with them and try and make them feel included. But it'd be an interesting question to ask the team. I can only go off the evidence. They're still here, so we must be doing something a bit right.
And when we spoke, I mean, you were quite bashful, really, but it sounded like if you wanted to take significant amount of time out of the business, you could do, and the business would sustain itself quite well. What sort of things are the team have you ingrained with the team, the kind of the routines that they would have to be doing through the course of a week? If you're not around, so what are the team doing in order to keep communications going and focus on the figures and all the stuff that they need to be doing to keep the business going if you're not around?
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, the business is in a position where it is starting to be self-sustained. And what I mean by that is the leads come in now. So we are an established business. We've got a good reputation online. We are an established business is the right way of saying it. And what I mean by that is we've got 15 years worth now of clients people that will come back to us, people that we recommend, people that just know us. We've been in, we have a showroom in Hinckley on Westfield Road. That's been here now for a long time. People just know it as a window showroom. Even if you didn't know the name of it, you'd just, oh, windows, yeah, go to that place down on Westfield where they sell windows, don't they? So that's really good. So a huge part of this business is getting new leads in every week. That works. I've got a young lady called Amy. Amy's my marketing girl. So she has a marketing plan that she works to, and that works. So if I wasn't a managing director, I would be a marketing manager. I quite like that side of things. But
and
now
again, that was something you used to do yourself before Amy.
Yeah,
you didn't have a dedicated marketing person. You just do whatever you could. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was always me. But that was a role that we have to have. We can't not have inquiries in a business like this. So that was one of the first positions that I recruited to save me some time. And personally now, I don't do a great deal of marketing, really. It's all down to the team to do. And thankfully, Amy's been off now for 3 or 4 months on maternity leave, and the business is still here. It's still got inquiries. Things are still coming through. So I've stepped up a little bit. I'm doing a few things, but nothing major. It's easy enough. So yeah, so that works pretty well.
What would you expect the guys to be doing when you're not there, with regards to just meetings, management, the comms that they'll be having? How would you expect them to be setting up their day or their week if you weren't around?
Yeah, so we've not developed it. We've had it sort of developed for us. It's a CRM system. So our biggest challenge after inquiries is making sure people know what's going on, communication. So we have a CRM system now where everything's tasked. So every client is on this CRM system. And if someone's not been contacted in a certain amount of time, it will flag up and say, Mr. Jennings, he paid his deposit 2 or 3 weeks ago. We need to contact him. We haven't contacted him yet. So it's a bit of a traffic light system. So I can dial in and just have a look at everyone's contacts and go, hold on, you've got 5 reds here. That's telling me that you've not contacted them. So you have to. It doesn't normally get to that. And don't get me wrong, CRM systems are only as good as the people using it. If everyone ignored it, then it would be a problem. If everyone ignored it, I'd be able to dial in. I can look at it from wherever I'm in the world and go, hold on, Bob. I haven't got a Bob. Hold on, Bob. You've got 10 clients here. You've not rang 8 of them. That's a problem. I'm away at the minute, but when I get back, that doesn't need to be 8, does it? Or else
so the systems are in place now to prompt that sort of habitual set of tasks that need doing, so that they keep things timely. Yes. Very good. Okay.
Yes, exactly that.
You mentioned about numbers. Have you said everything you wanted to do about numbers? Because I know you're very numbers driven, and you talked about testing, measure a little bit. I was thinking if there was one thing that you said was if there was just one thing that you did that you saw had the biggest impact or change to the business, what would that be?
Yeah, I'm a numbers person. So going back to the very first time we met, we talked about the numbers, and I love that, because I've always been a person that wanted to make decisions based on numbers, but I never had the means and wherefore to be able to do that. So we had a bit of a test and measure. I had it already beforehand and I was measuring it, but with your help, I could extrapolate that a lot more and use it a lot more in the business. So now we measure so much in the business, and that allows me to make good decisions. So let's go to the marketing. Let's just pick that part of the business out. I could tell you the exact number of leads I get from the exact number of marketing revenue streams that we do. I can tell you the average order value for each one. I can tell you which product sells the most in which area. I can tell you which salesperson's the best at selling certain products in a certain area. If you would ask me how many conservatories were sold in Lutterworth last year, I could tell you exactly that, who sold them and by the by. So when a lead comes in, if it's a conservatory in Lutterworth, let's say, and I know that Mr. Rep sold 3 of them last year because I know that from my figures, well, clearly he'd be the best person statistically to do that lead. He's already sold 3 in the area. Chances are he might know somebody. He'd go there and go, oh yeah, we did Mrs. Cooper around the corner. Oh, you did Jill's conservatory. Oh, I thought it was you. I wasn't. You know what I mean? Things like this. So it's a very small niche thing that I'm talking about there, but that's all built across the numbers that I know within the business. So again, I can tell you exactly where to put my money. So my advertising budget to turnover ratio, however you describe that, would be pretty phenomenal. It really would. I don't spend a great deal in advertising to return the fairly decent turnover that I have. That's because I put it all in the right place. I know what works and I measure it, and I don't just then think, well, that's it, then I'll never change it. We review it quite regularly, because there's always new things that are coming out. When I first started 10 years ago, SEO wasn't really a thing. Now it's massive. I can't. Years ago, newspaper was quite a good way of advertising. It's not so good now. So you've got to keep fluid with it. You've got to keep changing. But by measuring it, wow, I can make some fantastic decisions based on my numbers. I religiously measure it. We have our CRM system that does it for us. So with a click, whereas before I did have to spend time working it out, I don't now. I can just click a couple of buttons and there's a little pie chart to show me what's what. So that based on the work we did with Action Coach is one of the biggest. There's so many, and I can't sort of list them.
It supports the old, and I'm sure you
heard
it say, it's the old Warren Buffett saying, isn't it? Numbers are the language of business, and once you start to get accuracy around them and frequency of them and make them visible, then and understand what they're saying, then you get it, you understand it, you make the better informed decisions.
100%.
Spot on.
I know businesses now that still advertise in certain places because that's just what they've always done.
Yeah.
Or dad did it, or it bought a consortium once years ago that was good. You know what I mean? It's just not the way to do it anymore. Or then it might be the way, but if you don't know the numbers, you're just guessing.
Yeah. So you're working off the numbers. So So if we brought ourselves up to speed, then the Paul that was running the business 10 years ago to the Paul that's running it now, how has what you've learned extended beyond the business? Are you doing anything outside, with regards to investments or anything like that? Now you're starting to get a bit more time.
My business is running well, so it's running really well. I'm happy with that. So what I'm doing now is a little bit things for myself. So I spend a lot of time with my little boy. I have Thursday afternoons. I'm not here. You won't get me a Thursday afternoon at work because I'm not here. I spend it with my little boy. Either for school holidays, we'll take him somewhere. I took him skeggy last week just for the afternoon, just because we could. And I have a hobby. I race cars. I race stock cars at weekends, as you know, but people watching this might not. So I'd spend a lot of time doing that because that's something I want to do. I've looked at acquisitions as well for the businesses. Eventually, that's probably something I'll do. I don't want to do that now because one thing about me as a person, if I do something, I have to do it 100%. So if I was to take a business on, I'd find myself probably going there and spend a lot of time doing that. And I don't need to that just at this minute of time. But I think, again, it allows you to think in the future. I'd quite like to maybe go around to glazing businesses and talk to them about how to improve and learn from the mistakes I made and the things I've done well. So there's lots of that, and now as well as a bit of a side job, I suppose, I teach people how to race cars. So once a month or whatever I want to do, I'll go to a company and just teach people how to drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches and stuff, just because I can take a bit of time out of work, and the business will still run. It's absolutely fine because of the systems and the things we put in place. So personally, I probably wouldn't have dreamt of that when I first started. I wouldn't have even dared to dream it, but now it's reality.
And I'm right in thinking that the premises that you used to rent, you've got into a good position now with regards to being able to purchase that.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we did. We purchased there's the showroom that we're in. I can't remember how many years that was now. 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. I forget now. But yes, we've bought the showroom that we're in. We own it now. I didn't like paying rent. I didn't like that, to be honest with you. So I bought it personally, and the business pays me rent for it now. And we have a factory behind the showroom, and I bought that as well. So they pay me rent as well. So again, that was a huge motivation when I first started. I have to be in a position where I'm not paying somebody else rent. I should be paying myself that money. Yeah. And then it gives me something as and when, maybe in the future, we can look at selling it on or whatever, and I've got something there.
No, I think it's an interesting aspect to how the coaching can evolve, because a typical example of hard-working business owner, head down, and all your hours are spent in the business. But once you can get yourself in a position where you can put your head up a little bit, you start returning a decent profit, you can start to understand a bit more about wealth growth, personal wealth growth, and be able to benefit from the additional profits that the business is helping to create. I mean, that for us is the definition of business. It's a profitable commercial enterprise that'll work without you, and it'll be generating additional profits for you to invest how you see best. Now, I know for you that might be to buy a nice new shiny V8 engine, or it might be to put a deposit down on on some bricks and mortar, but it's allowing you to do it. That's the thing. And I always get excited when I'm working with clients and they've got themselves to that point where they are liquid enough to be able to start to do those things. For me, it's an important part of the coaching process. It's the coaching the person as much as it is about coaching the business. So
certainly a journey.
Appreciate your time. I mean, if there was one thing you would suggest to perhaps a business owner that was thinking about engaging with a coach, or at least having a conversation with myself, what would you say has been the single biggest benefit to you, and that's perhaps why you'd encourage someone to make a move?
So the way I would articulate that is, it's just the return on investment. Okay, so everything we do in business, we pay money out to get something back. So for me, to use a coach, to use yourself, that has been the single biggest return investment that I've ever had in my business. It has, because it's not just a single thing. You could buy a website tomorrow. That might be a commerce website, and it might change your business, and you might make money off that, and that's the point of it. And the return investment would be good. But for me, using a coach has been my biggest, single-handed, without a shadow of a doubt, biggest return investment. What I've invested in working with yourself has, I'd say I know the measurements. I can't tell exactly how much it's been, but it's changed. It's genuinely, honestly changed my business life without a shadow of a doubt. I think without business coach, I'd have still been okay. I'm a clever lad. I'm a hardworking lad. But I'd have probably got to 65, 70 and retired. Maybe by then by that point, maybe I'd have bought this place and maybe I've done that. And I'd have been okay. However, by working with yourself, it's just changed everything. It's just changed everything to allow me to understand what business is and what it can be, how a business can be formed, that it can work for you rather than you work for it. And it's just been huge. It's been massive for me, and I'll always be grateful. So I'm always happy to spend this time with you, because I want other people to experience what I've experienced. Because there's no reason why not. I'm not a particularly clever bloke, really. I'm not, I'm nothing special. I'm genuinely not. I just understood a few things that clicked at the right time by meeting yourself, put it into practice, and I sit in a much better position now than what I was.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's much appreciated, and I'm grateful for those words. So we'll just wrap it up, Paul. I mean, thanks very much for your time. It's been the best part of an hour out of your day, so I do appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay. And I wish you all the best for you, your family, and everything you're doing in business and on the track, of course, as well. So
thank you very much. That's the most important thing.
Cheers. See you soon.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.